economically, he went for the workshop in the second city rather than going for an explorer, because he knows that Xin-Xi games usually are longer, more intense. He's already looking at smithery, because he knows that this game will last a while. He also has a lot of good forests, so going for hunting and then forestry with lots of chopping or going for math is very solid here.
I think he needs to produce more units now.
Yeah, Chris likely can push with units.
Oh, he's got a swordsman.
Oh, he's going to need them now. That swordsman is a pain.
Yeah.
He has to be careful not to lose any of his cities, but Chris has enough stars that, and that second city Vaden has gotten is so far, not Vaden, RocketMoon got, is so far from his capital that Chris can feasibly defend without, and RocketMoon probably can't push enough units to take one of his cities. He's probably going to go for swordsman, or I doubt he goes for riders here.
Riders? It would be an okay idea, but if you just wants to try
Yeah, he's saving to go for swordsman.
Yeah. I think Chris can, if he gets more units and Z-Chacha, he could probably just storm straight into the capital.
Yeah, most likely. RocketMoon hasn't trained a unit in his capital yet. But it's pretty tight for Chris. I think it's going to be 10 stars for him to get a swordsman. Yeah, he can only train one swordsman there. I don't know the math on that. I think he can get... No, he can't get siege there. Unless RocketMoon brings over a third unit.
I don't think RocketMoon can bring a third unit.
He won't be able to siege anyway. He needs 3 warriors and 1 swordsman to be able to siege.
Yeah, like I said, I know the interaction for sure. Chris knows, I don't. So Chris is playing well with his defense. Thanks for that input, Gala. Looks like RocketMoon knows he can't siege, so he's just going to retreat back, and most likely he plays, since he has center control, he can probably just try and take that, just the rest of the map as best as possible.
Yeah.
Though his villages are a bit spread out, he can possibly still win here from economy and just more expansion.
I think roads would be a good option to connect the cities together and try to reduce the gap between the villages.
It would be good for his movement, but I don't think it's a very feasible play here, because he is behind on economy. He'll need to be... He would, if anything, he would want to go hunting archers before and just play more defensive, use the terrain for defense bonuses. Because Chris has more economy, he's going to be able to build up and be the one being aggressive. He needs to expand.
Really working out for Chris.
Yeah, Chris has a couple of nice forge spots, which will allow him to level up cities a lot. Not quite get giants. I think he'll go for, most likely, hunting forestry to get giants. And then he might go for math and push catapults behind. Or he might go archery.
Chris definitely has the upper hand here.
Yeah. And just yesterday, Chris was actually doing some Xin-Xi training in the Chraken server, so he knows very well what he's doing. He's beaten other top players with it. He knows it very well, so he can play it very quickly in this bullet format with the live games. And unfortunately for RocketMoon, there's that first village a bit far away.
Yeah, unlucky spawn.
I am not... He went for that forge there very forward thinking, but it'll still be kind of hard for him to level up his capital and border expand there.
He's slided onto another ruin. See what the ruin gives him later.
Yeah, hopefully for him, it isn't another swordsman. Because although that was a lot of pressure, it wasn't very ideal for his economy, which is what he needed, being down cities and having this first city slower than Chris. And Chris, I believe, is going to be at 4 cities to 2 next turn.
Yeah, he will. I think maybe resources will be the best pull out of that ruin. Maybe getting hunting for a tech or something.
Yeah, I agree. Now we see Chris takes hunting pre-capture here. He's definitely looking at going for giants. Looks like he'll be popping one in his north city this turn.
Yep, and indeed he does.
And then he can just pop one in his capital with the monument, I believe. I think he'll need to get forestry and chop for that, though. I can't quite see it. Yeah, it's full forest, so he'll need to do a little bit of chopping. He might even border expand here.
Yeah. Border expansion would be a good idea. And get
I think he's
organized.
going for it, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He was considering it, and he saw, I think there was 5 or 6 forests around the outside, and he decided to go for it.
Oh, he's put it in Zicha.
Yeah, because he border expanded, he is probably just going to get a giant with forestry. So now he's taking an explorer to get just as much vision as he can, and he sees that he's just got a vastly better position here. Most likely he'll be pretty aggressive, and RocketMoon will resign within the next 5 turns. Now, RocketMoon got very unfortunate village density. It's hard to see any way for him to get out of this. Yeah, Chris isn't even going to go for forestry this turn, I don't think. He's just going to set up a bunch of units, and then he'll probably go forestry, pop more giants, likely go archery or math afterwards to push with archers and catapults behind. He's considering taking it this turn, though. Or he's just trying to calculate out his next couple turns.
Do you think that players made any mistakes this game or could have played it better?
I think that Chris has played really well. I think that for RocketMoon, he got very unfortunate with the village gen, and then he pushed with his units towards Chris's city, but then he just retreated. He didn't even use it to zone of control. He could have contested that north city from Chris with his swordsman and with the warrior he had pushed towards Chris's city, but instead he just left and allowed Chris to just get that north city free, setting Chris up even more. And as we saw, he's already gotten 4 more stars per turn from that. He got resources. He's getting a ruin now. So RocketMoon could have played a bit better, even though his position would have still been disadvantaged. He would have been in a little bit more secure position. Chris would have been probably 1 turn slower to a giant, and then he would have had Chris cut off for most of the map, which would have been a big play for him. He could be more aggressive towards Chris rather than having to be defensive.
mean, let's see how the forestry benefits RocketMoon here in his capital. I think he can get a giant in his capital next turn with the forests and the animals. Considering that he has 10 stars, and if he doesn't want to train any more units.
Yeah, he can definitely get a giant. The only risk is that, well, he'll get the giant now, and he'll be able to push it, but he'll slowly get pushed back by Chris. His main problem is that he's kind of cut off with his central city. He needs to be able to get a giant in his central city, which what's the math on that? I believe he can get one with forestry and a smithery, but because he didn't just yet, if Chris steps on the ideal forestry spot, I don't think that he can kill Chris's unit there. And well, Chris is sieging his capital. He can pop the giant. Wait, can he pop a giant? I don't think he can pop a giant.
With a forge? Or
I think he needs to chop to pop the giant off his capital. Yeah, he's gonna have to chop, and then he just loses that central city.
yeah, he needs to chop 3. Bye-bye, horse. Ah! Oh no, he got the horse. Okay.
He can still pop a Jetless on that central city if Chris does not step on
He's
the
out of time.
one tile he needs. He just gets skipped here. And if Chris plays correctly, he steps on the potential forge position, and then RocketMoon can't pop a giant in the center city.
Yeah, it's really key where you put your units to prevent the opponent from getting resources or, like you said, a forge spot.
Yeah, positioning your units for sieging, unsieging, for, well, really forward-thinking combat. And
No, he has to siege with one of them, and there's 2 forge spots, which both give 4 population. So it doesn't matter where he steps.
no, because if he moved his giant west this turn and placed his swordsman where it is currently, because of he has other. Wait, does he? I can't see if he has another unit. I thought he had a rider, which would have been in range. But yeah,
What were you saying, Gala?
he's saying
Either
that there's
way,
the
whether
2
he
forge
sieges
spots.
or not, there's still gonna be a giant either way. It doesn't matter as much. He loses on a few stars, I guess.
He's running out of time again.
Hello, screen.
The thing is, he keeps having to be rushed. He's running out of time.
Yeah, I believe that the time you get each turn is based on how many cities you have, which is just even worse for Bullet, because when you're down in cities is when you want to think more, because you really want to be much more careful with your play. I mean, yes, when you have more cities, it takes more time to think through it all, but it's just a lot of extra pressure when you're already down, and then you get less time than your opponent. I mean, right here we already see RocketMoon is a minute lower on time.
I mean, RocketMoon's playing pretty defensively right now, considering he's got both of his giants in both of the cities, which Swordsman is by is North City. I think it's going to be a battle between the giant and there's North City, which probably going to is fourth.
Yeah. He can't take his giant off of his capital, because if he does, then Chris sieges, and I don't believe he can break it.
Well, it sounds like Rocket's been playing defensively all along. You said in the very beginning, instead of being aggressive, he retreated.
Yeah, he needed to push for that North City against Chris, but he didn't, and he's just been playing behind the whole game. He has no leverage against Chris. The Ruined Swordsman was early pressure, but he didn't capitalize on it. Like you already mentioned, he retreated, which was a mistake, and now he just slowly gets ground out. And like I said, he probably resigns here in the next couple of turns.
Unless Chris's phone dies first. Oh wait, no, that's vote. Wait, whose phone is that? No, that's
That's RocketMoon's.
okay.
He would be sad if Chris lost to his phone dying.
No, RocketMoon's phone is going to die.
Yeah. But if you lost a position like this just because your phone died.
He has 10% battery. Plug in your phone.
Yeah, come on, RocketMoon. Well, looks like he goes for another giant in his capital. He planned ahead well with going for the sawmill spot there. But it's still not a good position with Chris slowly overwhelming him. He can't move his giant off the capital still. Well, no, he can because Chris moved his swordsman away. But if he had just moved his giant off and trained a swordsman, Chris could have sieged on the turn prior.
And it's possible Chris could make a mistake, but I doubt it. Chris.
Well, even if Chris makes a few mistakes here, like, they're not likely to be significant.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris just has the advantage with economy. I mean, he's up one city, and he has more units. Even if he, accidentally lost an entire giant, it wouldn't be over.
Yeah, and Chris has been playing very well today. And in general, I don't expect him to make mistakes.
Yeah. So it's a very just slow and grindy position for Chris, and RocketMoon's been playing behind as he set himself up to do the whole game.
Or his phone's just going to run out of battery.
That as well.
Looks like he was checking the score.
He's probably seeing if Chris is going for any tier 3 techs.
And checking his battery. No.
Chris went for Org to pop another giant. And he's just going to push that central city and then push for his capital. And yeah. RocketMoon's still holding out.
Yes. It's always interesting to me. There are players who fight till the bitter end.
Yep.
I am not one of those players. I resign. If I know I cannot win, I feel like there is no shame in resigning when there's no way to win.
No, there isn't. Not at all. A lot of players get offended when you don't resign. But, for newer players, like, people call it, like, junior syndrome or whatever, where you don't resign because you don't understand that the position is just completely lost.
I've seen it in some very veteran players as well.
Yeah, veteran players can be pretty stubborn.
Yeah, I think it's just the principle is like they fight to the bitter end. It's not only in new players. I've seen it in some very experienced veterans.
Yeah, it's just more common in new players.
I think it also depends on how much time pressure you have. If you have 5 other season games waiting to play, you're like, I don't have time to play this out. I have other things I have to do. There we go.
And RocketMoon resigns here with the double siege. Very well played by Chris. Unfortunately for RocketMoon, he's not pushed for the North City.